My case is totally open. I'm very open. I was in Tallahassee, Florida prison for 6 years. That's 72 months. That was my sentence.
How do you feel about doing this film?
I mean, honestly, it's part of my life. I've been through it. I'm over it. Other people don't think the same. I love this project, but it's hard, you know. My family don't agree with me, and I don't want to cause them any more embarrassment or shame. It's caused them a lot of pain already.
Why are you doing this film?
There is so much going on inside the prison system that a lot of people would like to speak about. It's an issue that I'm passionate about. I was there for 6 years of my life. I've seen a lot of stuff. I met a lot of people, you know? That was my life for a long time. I'm 30 years old now.
How did it all begin?
Back then, I was young. 23, 24. I was doing a lot of drugs, you know? A whole lot of Xanax, a whole lot of cocaine. I was not living a good life. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't been convicted. Who knows? So Jacob is my brother, right? And he was selling Molly to everybody, and my friend Katie needed to make some money, so I became the middleman between her and my brother. Imagine if it was your brother doing some shit and asked for help. Anyway, Katie gets caught up with the feds, and she's now wearing a wire. Sometimes you can trust people so much, but when it comes to it, I had a lot of people who I thought were my friends, but they really weren't. I understand it's part of the game, and she had to do whatever it is that she had to do to get out of the situation, and I don't blame her. She was also probably going to be convicted for the rest of her life. So the feds offered me a deal to testify against my brother, and if I cooperated, they would have dropped all of my charges. I could have walked out of there. But I couldn't do that to him. Fuck that. He would have gotten a life in prison if I hadn't taken some of the blame. In these situations, you got to think about your morals and values. It was so unfair because they knew that I wasn't involved that heavily. They knew that my crime was not that serious. That's why they offered me that deal. They put 73 kilos of Molly on me, and it wasn't mine. When I got arrested, I told the agent it wasn't mine. I didn't make profit. I never sold any of the drugs. The guys just looked at me and said, "We know you didn't, but guess what? It's conspiracy, and you fall under conspiracy, so here you are." I never sold any of those drugs. I was so completely removed. The whole process of conviction needs to be spoken about. How the justice system is so fucked up. How inmates are treated, our rights taken, what we go through in there. 70% of people in prison are all there due to conspiracy charges. And if you don't plead guilty or accept their bargain, you can spend the rest of your life in prison. They don't need hard evidence with conspiracy charges. They call it ghost dope. The feds can manipulate you and take a lot of things out of context, and they push you to admit things that aren't entirely true. It's very unfair. They do this to everybody. I know so many people who were locked up and got so much time just because of their status. If they didn't have enough money, if they were black, Hispanic, whatever. There are so many people in a system that just shouldn't be there. It's very sad the way it works, especially in the United States. Of course, I would like to tell my story, but But there are so many more stories that need to be heard. Prisons are full of drugs and criminals. A lot of people that go to prison are drug addicts or convicted with drug offenses, and then when they arrive at prison, it's the exact same thing. There are drugs everywhere. You know, you get to prison sometimes, you're not even a criminal. You end up leaving a convict. You learn how to get away with things. They don't really rehabilitate. They go to prison, get high in prison, learn how to get away with it, and then they're released back to society and nothing's changed. Transformative justice is needed for sure. A lot of women were in prison because they suffered abuse from partners, and then when they fought back and got arrested, there was no rehabilitation for them. That is something I wish they would change. When you're in prison, there is nothing to do except hustle. And all that dark shit that goes on in there. If you don't have money, you get 3 tiny bars of soap a month. People are pushed to hustle. They're pushed to sell drugs, otherwise they wouldn't survive. They don't just give you shampoo, conditioner. They don't give you clothes, no towels, no shower shoes. If you don't have money, you're screwed. And a lot of people in there don't. They don't feed you on time. They don't feed you edible food. The food it's so bad. If you don't have money or commissary, it's bad. Some people don't eat. You're supposed to tell the prison your dietary requirements, but most of the time they don't care though. You really have to insist on it, get your family to complain, but a lot of people don't have anyone to complain for them. You're going to eat what you're going to eat. Obviously, when I went to jail, I had to withdraw from all of the drugs I was doing, and I was very, very sick for 2 weeks, but if you get sick, you don't have a right to medical help.
What were things like during the COVID-19 pandemic?
When the coronavirus came round, things got worse. The only way it could have gotten to the prisoners is through the officers, who don't wear masks, gloves. They touched our food. They didn't take any precautions. There were inmates who weren't getting treatment and they were dying. Nobody cared about the prisoners. My brother caught coronavirus from the guards. He suffers with really bad panic attacks, asthma and bronchitis. His inmate got a cell phone and recorded what was happening and published it online. He was recording people that became ill and how they were being treated. It got a lot of attention. But then he got put in solitary for like 9 or 10 months and shipped to a different prison. All they cared about was that he was an ex-gang member who had a cell phone in prison.
Did you join a gang?
Prison is very, very different from regular life. You go to prison, people join gangs. It's just what you do, you know, to survive. The guards do not give a fuck. They are not going to keep us safe. If we got beat up by other prisoners, they just look. I'm definitely done with my gang now. I was there. I'm part of it. But that's not something I'm bringing on the outside with me.
What was your biggest struggle during your incarceration?
Before you go to prison, you get put in county jail, and I was there for a long, long time by myself. 127 days by myself in a cell. I didn't see the outside world, any nature, just walls. And you can't call home every day, so I learned to appreciate talking to my family, but at the same time, when you're in there, you gotta let go of the outside world. It makes your time go by a lot faster if you just completely disconnect from what's going on outside, just cut it off. The worst thing about being in prison and being away for so long is I remember visitations with my family, and they came to see me and they were all having fun and making jokes with each other, and I was just sitting there like I'm not even part of their family, you know? I was sitting there as like a viewer, an outsider to my family. I think that's the worst part. You get stuck. Time freezes and then you see people moving on. You had a boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore. Things like that. My brother, Alberto, he was just a kid when I went to prison. And now he's a man. He smokes, he drinks. Everybody moves on, but you're stuck. Having a loved one in prison is horrible. It makes your time worse, so you gotta let all that go. It's not because of lack of love or whatever, it's just harder. When you're taken away from your life and locked up, it's just you. And you've got to face yourself.
How did you cope with that?
I learned to rely on God. I never really believed in God prior to prison. I learned that there's a higher being, whatever that may mean to you. So I grew spiritually during my time there, and I learned to be okay with myself. I got to know myself better than I ever did, and that's the best thing that prison can do to anyone. And I used to look down on myself a lot. I thought I was a fuck up, but now I realize I wasn't as bad as I thought, and I can see some good stuff within myself now. Those first few days, it'll kill you. You feel so lonely, you feel horrible, but after that, you grow, you learn, you appreciate things like nature. I remember coming out and seeing grass and sand. That's something I never appreciated in my life.
What are your plans now that you're out?
Once you're there, all you want to do is get out. And then once you're out, it's like, what now? Where do I go from here? And there's really no support. And now you're a felon, so that causes it's hard to do anything when you're a federal felon. Every inmate does their time differently, but there are some that really do want to change and get out and do something with their lives, but they don't have the tools to do so. A lot of inmates don't have a support system when they leave. They don't have a family to go home to. So what are they meant to do? There are halfway houses, but they don't offer support. Prison was very traumatic. When I first got out, everyone who walked right next to me would give me anxiety. I feel like they're going to run up on me. I couldn't even leave my room. I only go out for a bit and then I go back to my room, so it's a lot for me to handle. In prison, people don't walk close to you unless they're going to attack you, so I'm paranoid and cautious, but I'm definitely adapting. Not everyone out here is always trying to get me. I just need to get used to it. With time, everything will be fixed. The same way when you go to prison and you don't know what to do or how to act is the same way when you come back to society. I don't know what to do. I was in the immigration center for 9 months due to my charges. Back in the US, I had a green card, but as a resident, not a citizen. I've been out for about 40 days now. I've got a process going on in court. I am appealing my sentence, but I can't go back to the US. I'm working on getting my papers here in Brazil, but because I was in America for so long, all of my documents are American, and they've taken that away from me, so kind of like a ghost. They're like, we don't know who you are. You were never here. It's frustrating. I can't get a job or move on or anything. I'm stuck. I feel stuck. I can't get a job. I can't go to school. I can't do anything right now. I'm ready to start my life and I can't. I'm ready to have a career and make money and support myself without having to struggle. I'm more focused on starting a life and being there for my brother and my friends who are still in prison, and making sure I'm a good support system for whatever they need.
What is your ultimate purpose for this interview?
Inmates, the whole prison thing. When you go to prison, society looks down on you because you've done something wrong. I suffered for 6 years. I got my rights taken for 6 years. It is not a justice system. I mostly want to bring awareness around the issue of prison reformation. It's a big deal, especially in the United States. People are facing unfair sentences and a lot of time. It needs to be fixed so that people don't have to go through this anymore. It's not only about me.